Hari Om, welcome to this class on Kathopnishad. We'll start with the chanting first. Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahnau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vedvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvanutivi Siddhasadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganpataye Namaha. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir me Sada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Eva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, so welcome to this next class on Kathopnishad, where we are looking at the second chapter, second part, Dvitiya Adhyay, Dvitiya Valli. So we have started the first four verses and we are now looking at the fifth verses. So just to summarize in short what we have seen so far, it's all about it is about consciousness being the source of everything. So how this consciousness is present in the body and how we have to separate the consciousness from the body part. Right. So this body with 11 entrances or exits, it's like a city which needs to be separated from that unmodified, unborn consciousness. So he who meditates on this becomes free from sorrow and gets released even while being alive. Jivan eva mukta. And from the bondage of karma and karma phala. So, which is what born out of ignorance. So after exhausting his prarabdha, that person isn't born again. So there are 11 doors. So 7 on the face, two, and one mouth, one at the navel for food imbibition at birth, the navi, then 2 for excretion in the lower part, and then finally the shikha, which is made up of the conjunction of 3 bones here called the Brahmarandra. So there, just like there is a city with many doors in this body, the king is the Paramatma, right? It is the Antaryami, the inner controller who is regulating everything. The Jiva thinks that it is the owner. He thinks by mistakenly, but even though every second it is clear, he hasn't any control. He still holds on to this illusion because all the body processes, no, everything is running without his own control. So still this body, even though if it is not running in the rule of Jiva, once we focus inwards, we see that the real owner of the body is the Paramatma. We are freed from bondage. The body existing doesn't cause any problem because the sadhaka is now able to see his own true undivided nature, right? So this is the state of Jivan Mukta or the liberated while alive. So in this state, he experiences both duality and non-duality. So when he is Jivan Mukta, he is alive. So duality is visible to him. And yet he is established in non-duality through knowledge. So the duality, even if it is appearing, ये द्वैत जो दिख रहा है वो फिर भी उसको नकारात्मक रूप में दिखता है. इट अपीयर्स नेगेटेड टू हिम, जैसे नहीं सिर्फ प्रोजेक्ट हो रहा है इसका. सो द इग्नोरेंट माइट स्टिल सी द लिबरेटेड एज endowed with doership and enjoyship. They will see him doing the normal things that he already does. But Jnani, he always remains away from both. So as long as I think of myself as the limited ego, I will have the karta bhokta syndrome, right? So in this and the next verse, this thought is also expanded, whereby outside also this same consciousness is in the form of existence, and also within me also. So when I look at this, so as long as I think of myself as the limited ego, I will have the karta bhokta syndrome. I am a doer, karta, I am a bhokta, I am an enjoyer. So once this syndrome is mistakenly is found to be something that I have mistaken myself to believe, once I identify in the correct place, then I shift my identity to the witness, to the sakshi. Then this karta bhokta will go away. Therefore, I will have no relationship to all the objects of the universe. So the illusion, the mistaken illusion that I am the doer is possible only with the ignorance. So once ignorance is gone, then how will it persist? The trace of ignorance, thoda sa lesh matra, the trace of ignorance that remains, it might give us the experience that there is a world. तो हमें दिखेगा. But there will be no identification, or what we call adhyas. So like if we see a rubber snake, so if that rubber snake is moving just like this, we will suddenly see it, will get scared, right? But once I have seen it properly, I have seen the nature, I have seen the nature is known, we will still see the snake, but the fear will not be there. So once life gets over, then Videha Mukti is achieved, and the appearance of body and the world also disappears. What is this Videha Mukti? So when both the vision and both the duality both disappear. So right now, even if one is in knowledge, the duality is visible. So there the duality also will disappear, because once your prarabdha is over, you don't have any kind of desire. So on death, this person mukti is achieved by the jnani, because the appearance of the body as well as the desire to take another body, both are gone. No more is he interested in getting another body. So he merges into his true nature. He becomes one with the infinite consciousness. But what about us? What common people like us? On our death, a jnani, uh, we uh, we don't have the possibility to become a deha. Why? Because the subtle body is still there, which is full of our desires. So unless we can let go of that, we cannot we break this cycle of birth and rebirth. So because the subtle body is there, it will go in search for a new gross body. But jnani is adeha in both ways. So before death, negated appearance is there. After that, death, that also goes away. So his prana will get merged over here. And then, if after showing in these two mantras that the existence and consciousness are one and the same, here it is in the third mantra, we saw that the soul is the same in all the bodies at the individual and the total level. The same Atma that is the same everywhere. It is the one that is carrying the prana up and down. Urdhvam pranam unnayati apanam pratyak asyati. So it is carrying the prana and apana in its movements up and down. Right? So here it is shown that this function is done by the Atma only, which is situated in the middle. Madhye Vamanam Asinam Vishwe Deva Upasate. It is revered by those desirous of liberation. So the eyes and the other sense organs offer it oblations in the form of their sense perceptions. And they will keep giving their inputs. So Vishwe Deva Upasate. Deva here are the sense organs. So the one who substitutes all instruments in their duties, and from whom all they work, that is the Atma only. And then this prana, which is just only, it is Vayu only. It is air only. But who is causing that air to move? It is that Sharirastha Dehina. It is mentioned in the next mantra also. Asya Visansra Manasya Sharirastha Dehina. This Dehina, this soul, which is this embodied soul. Dehina is the soul, and Sharirastha within the body, is situated within the body. So this Sharirastha Dehina is the one which is controlling. Atma is the one that orders everything. It regulates everything, and it moves it to create this life force. Earlier it is just Vayu, air. But through the regulation of Atma, it becomes the life force. And therefore, the different divisions it takes up. No, prana also takes up different functions. Prana, Pan, Vyan, Udan, Saman. So all these functions, whichever function it takes up, it gets a new name. So it's like a new upadhi. So each upadhi will create a new, what we call a prana vritti, a pran thought, that I am the one who's taking down air. Then that is Vyan, Apan, the one who's giving out air, that is Pran, and so on. So this shows that a conscious entity is regulating with prana, because the regulated action is seen only when a sentient entity controls something. This regulated action. So like the instruments like the eye, etc., they are only serving the Atma. They just give it the knowledge of the objects. But without the consciousness that is imparted, जो अगर चेतना नहीं देगा ये आत्मा, if the consciousness will not be provided, then they will not see anything. So eyes will function with the presence of this Atma only. Yeah? So I'm seeing a ditch. Eyes are seeing the ditch, not I. The eyes. So the eyes is seeing the ditch. But the foot will prevent us from falling into it. Right. So this shows that something is coordinating the movements of both. So there are, of course, those who accept a non-sentient cause, like modern science, and they will say the brain is doing it. But if we analyze in the right manner, सही तरीके से हम देखें तो brain itself functions only when the Atma is giving it power. Brain is just a physical organ. So once Atma stops giving power, it withers and dies. So therefore, the inference is clear that brain is not capable of doing anything without the power of Atma. So prana and the sense organs, they are all non-dual. So now if you have to prove this, like if we take what we call the Nyaya Prakriya. So what is the Nyaya Prakriya? You try to prove something. So that statement, you call it Pratigya. So Pratigya, then Hetu, the cause, then Vyapti, how you connect them, then Drishtant, you give an example, then Upanaya, you make the final connection, and then the conclusion, which is almost the same as the Pratigya. So what is the Pratigya? Prana and the sense organs are non-dual. So what is the Hetu, the cause? They are being prompted by a doer. They are being prompted by a conscious force. So then what is the Vyapti? The Vyapti is, the cause is that they are, that they are just instruments. These eyes, etc., they are just instruments. And every instrument needs a doer. So what is the example? Like a hand and the axe. So axe will not cut on its own. The hand with the conscious force will have to use, we will have to impart the power. बिना हाथ के नहीं काटेगा axe. So thus the instruments are connected to the doer. That is the Upanaya. That is the connection. And finally the Nigaman conclusion. Thus Atma prompts them. So in this way, we prove this thing that it is only the Atma which is prompting the prana and the indriyas into doing their action. So once Atma separates from the body, then prana also doesn't remain. Then prana also goes away. The body will decay and merge back into the elements. And then we look into the next one. We'll start with the fifth one now. So these two are together. We'll take the first one only first, because the next one is actually more connected to the seventh one also. So, न प्राणेन पानेन मर्त्यो जीवति कश्चन इतरेण तु जीवन्ति यस्मिन्नेतौ उपाश्रितौ न प्राणेन पानेन मर्त्यो जीवति कश्चन इतरेण तु जीवन्ति यस्मिन्नेतौ उपाश्रितौ. So, न प्राणेन न अपानेन मर्त्यः जीवति कश्चनः itereण tu jivanti yasmin eto upashrito. So neither by pranaha nor by apanaha Martyo jivati kaschana. This martya, this human being, he lives or he stays alive, huh? Or he is functional, right? So, but what is the, by what then? Itarend, something other than that. Itarend tu jivanti yasmin eto upasrito, right? So, these pran and apan are just the instruments, the functionaries, but these are made alive by this. Jivan giving power, this life giving power within it, which is the consciousness. So, na pranena, na panena, martyo jivati kaschana. So, now what is this problem here? What is the problem here that we have to understand that how is something that is not even visible moving them? Huh? So, at the time of death, what happens? The reflected consciousness. Now we have seen the consciousness, the original consciousness, the one all pervading, through which is not modified and not undergoing any kind of change. Then the mind reflects that consciousness. That mind is reflecting the consciousness. We call it reflected consciousness or RC. And the mind will be called the one who is doing the job of reflection. That is the reflecting medium. So that reflected consciousness, here we give a name, Chidabhas. So, at the time of death, the reflected consciousness or the Chidabhas, it goes away. And the reflecting medium, which is the Sukshma Sharir, you can say, mind and all the complete subtle body, it also goes away. So, even though in the subtle body, 17 organs are there, if you remember from Tattva Bodha, or we have seen here also, what are the 17? The 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, Panch Pranaha, and Manabuddhi. So, out of these 17 components, the most important is Pran because it is working till the end. So, finally, the mind, at the end of the body, the Prana will merge into the subtle body. So, when the subtle body goes away, we generally use the expression कि उसके प्राण चले गए, प्राण went away. प्राण पखे रूठ गए. So you can say that mind has gone, but that is also correct. Sense organs have gone is also correct, but generally we use the word prana went away. Therefore, the reflecting medium, that is the prana, also goes away. So, at the time of death, two things go away. Reflected consciousness goes away. जो प्रतिबिंब चैतन्यम हम कहते हैं या चिदाभास कहते हैं, that reflected consciousness or the appearance of a consciousness, they go away. So the most important part of this reflecting medium, which is pran, also goes away. So previously both were there. पहले दोनों थे. So previously both were there. Therefore body was alive. Now both have gone away. So body has become dead. Right? So now the question is, how do we know whether the reflecting medium or reflected consciousness is blessing the body? A person can say that prana alone gives life. प्राण से ही सब चलता है ना. He gives importance to pran rather than giving importance to the reflected consciousness. So who is the real one which blesses with life? So even though both of them quit at the time of death, even though both of them are there while living, we have to give importance to the consciousness alone. Why? Because pran, it cannot bless the physical body. In fact, pran's utility is to be able to receive the reflection and bless the body and transfer the reflection to the body. So suppose there is a dark room, I gave this example earlier, and there is sun outside, and I have kept a mirror outside at a particular angle. Now the sun up is forming a reflection in the mirror. एक उस पे प्रतिबिंब पड़ रहा है. So this reflection is happening. So there are two things happening. The reflected sun and the reflecting medium, the mirror. Now if the dark room has to be illumined, what do you require? क्या क्या चाहिए? You require both the mirror and the reflected sun. So only that mixture will be able to illumine the dark room. So if you remove the mirror, certainly the dark room cannot be illumined. You can take it another way. If you are standing in front of a mirror, then only the image will be formed. Right? So light has to be there. You have to stand in front of a mirror. So if you remove the mirror, certainly the dark room, it cannot be illumined. प्रकाशित नहीं होगा. So suppose a person uses Anvay Vyatireka method. So what is Anvay? Anvay is Anu Ayati, or we have seen earlier also, when something is there and another thing appears, And then when that thing goes away, then the other thing also goes away. So through that method, we determine that that object, which is the first thing which goes away, is the cause. We use this method when when we determine the someone has allergy. So what do they do? So at the time of allergy, what we do is we that person notices that I took some certain food because of which this allergy appeared. So then first he is asked to take that food. So once the allergy appears, it is decided that these two come together. That is Anvay. Then Vyatirek is what? Then after some time, he is asked to let go. वो चीज छोड़ दो, कभी भी नहीं लेनी. You're not supposed to take that food. And then the disease will go away. So what will that mean? That that food item, let us say, if it is something from outside like pollen, or if it is some food like someone is allergic to eggs, or some are allergic to seafood, prawns. So once you stop eating that, then that problem will go away. So that means what? That allergen was the cause. जो है जिससे एलर्जी थी. So that cause is established, right? So here also, Anvay Vyatirek, we are arguing that when the mirror is there, the dark room is illumined. When the mirror is removed, the room become dark. So why can't I say that the mirror alone is illumining the room? Mirror से ही हो रहा है. So our answer is that even through Anvay Vyatirek, even if it is fitting in this case, but still you cannot say mirror is the illuminator, because mirror does not have a light of its own. स्वयं प्रकाश नहीं है. It doesn't have a light of its own. So the credit can never go to the mirror. So even though the mirror plays a very important role, the credit can never go to the mirror, because mirror does not have its own light. Then what is the mirror doing? क्या कर रहा है? With the borrowed light, it is illumining the room. With the borrowed light, it is illumining the room. So it doesn't have light of its own. Borrowing the light and illumining. It's like some country has taken a loan from the World Bank and then given another country the loan. If it doesn't have its own money. So therefore, the ultimate credit goes to the, not to the mirror, but the sun. Similarly, pran also can never enliven the body. Pran serves as a mirror only. Therefore, pran can never give life to the body, because pran by itself is an inert matter. It is an inert matter. The role of prana is to borrow the consciousness from Atma and lend life to the physical body. Therefore, Upanishad says what? Na pranena na apanena kaschana martya jivati. A person is alive not because of prana, but because it doesn't have a life of its own. So, apana doesn't have a life of its own. So, Sukshma Shari, that is, doesn't have a life of its own. So, if prana makes the body alive, if pran is making the body alive, it is not because of its own light, but it has borrowed from the original sun.
You're saying that Sukshma actually has no light on its own, power on its own. Then how does it goes with that?
How it goes is, it still has the reflected consciousness. Always the reflected consciousness will be connected with that. So when it is going from one body to the other, then the original consciousness cannot travel. है ना? वो तो जा नहीं सकती, वो तो सब जगह ही है. It is everywhere. So the reflected consciousness will remain associated with that, but in a merged form, and it will carry the mind, subtle body. This reflected consciousness.
So the Sukshma Shari never leaves, without the.
Yeah. Or we can also look at it another way.
Unless not it is merged with the Supreme God.
Yeah. So we can look at another way also. No, we use the Vedantic rules of logic. So there we saw the rules. So now here, if the doubt arises that the body, etc., can remain mobile when prana is working, then why accept an atma separate from the prana? This is the thing we are thinking. So why not accept prana as the one propelling the body? So here it is said the body is alive neither by prana or apana, but something else other than them, which supports and enlivens them. So they are all working for something else. किसी और के लिए काम कर रहे हैं. So what is this rule we have? That first is that everything that is working for someone else, all these don't have a life of their own. They are jada. प्राण भी जड़ है, इंद्रिय भी जड़ है. Why? Because it keeps changing every day. So something that is changing every day, one day it is going to end. So yad drishyam tad jadam, etc. We saw, no? So if something is something that can be seen, then it is jadam. It has to be non-sentient. So prana itself, it can be seen or it can be experienced. Therefore, it is insentient. Then other way we can look at it is, first prana is energy. Prana is actually energy. So energy always has a holder. So Shakti will always have a holder which is called Shaktiman. Without Shaktiman, Shakti cannot exist independently. Right? Anywhere you see energy, there will be someone holding that energy. Right? And you can't, that Shakti, for this Shakti also, Pran Shakti, Atma is the holder. So you can observe one way when you do pranayam, you are increasing and decreasing the speed of prana. So you are controlling. Who are you? You are Atma. Yeah. So that way. So prana's speed is increasing and decreases. So when you do pranayam, you can regulate it. So that means another entity is regulating. Then there is another rule. There is another rule, we call it Sanghatasya Pararthatvad. So when there is an entity which is composed of many things like this body, then it is always for the use of someone, some conscious entity other than it, जो उसके साथ जुड़ी हुई नहीं है, जस्ट उसके लिए उसको यूज कर रही है. So like when we make a house, we are constructing the house and then we go and live in the house. The house does not exist for any non-sentient entity. Some sentient entity will make the house and some sentient entity will use the house. So same way, this body also is a component, like a car. The car is made up of different components. So, but does the car move on its own? No. Car always has someone else as a driver. So car is for the driver. So same way, Sanghat, always a composition of elements will always be for some other conscious entities. Sanghat asya pararthatvad. Pararthatvad. So this is the rule of Vedanta. So if there is any composition of entities, then any member of the composition, that is the Sanghat, has to function for another sentient entity outside of it. That is the rule. So now Atma is in the body. Atma is in the body. This is proved by the existence and movement of the prana, etc. So how do we, let's try understand this with the space. So how do we know space is in the pot? So if we can fill it up with water, etc., then the space is there in the pot. कुछ था, स्पेस वहां पे था, तभी उसमें डाल पाए. खाली जगह थी तब आप पानी डाल पाए. So therefore, or you can put your hand inside to find that there is space. So thus getting filled is the indicator for space. So Atma is in the same way like Akash, even one less property. Akash still has a property of sound. Atma is without any property, so it can only be indicated only. So what is the main indicator? The main indicator is prana. Prana is indicator because we saw it is jada and something chetan is needed to move it. So even if sense organs are not working, but prana is, that means Atma is making it alive. Atma usko जीवित रख रहा है, Atma usko move कर रहा है. So if prana cannot be found inside, that means Atma is gone. So we must not mistake prana as Atma. The body functions when all of these elements get together and make it function. But to regulate and control the functions of a sentient entity is needed. Something independent from them, for which they work. So Atma has to exist apart from these. So there is a story about how we should know our true nature, otherwise we get caught in this misconception. So Bhartrihari was a king. He was very renowned and he has written numerous works also. So he loved his wife a lot. He loved his wife so much. He loved her that he couldn't think of existing apart from her. So don't take it on you. It's going to end up negatively. So his guru was Gorakhnath ji, and he gave him a fruit, which he thought would, he told him he will have a very, very long life. So when he took that fruit home, he thought that my life is useless without my wife. So as long as she is alive, I am also happy, or I am alive. So he gave that fruit to her, the queen. So now queen was in love with the Senapati, with the So she went to him and she thought that I love you, so I will give it to you. So he gave it. And then again it passed on. The Senapati loved a maid, one of the dasis. He gave it to her. Then the maid, she secretly loved the king. So she brought it to him. So it's a long story. I'm cutting it short. So ultimately, when the king got back the fruit, he learned of the cycle. Investigated. Pata karo kahan se kahan pहुंचा. So he learned of the cycle, and he was so disgusted that he gave up the kingdom and he became a sannyasi under his guru Gorakhnath Ji. Right? So at one time, when he was in deep love for his wife, he wrote the Shringar Shatakam about Shringar. Then, as a king also, because he was a very good ruler, he wrote Niti Shatakam, which is another one of his words about law, logic, and all that. So after this, he wrote this Vairagya Shatakam. Vairagya Shatakam. So giving up. So what happened to this king's bondage? The bondage is imaginary. Bondage is imaginary, but the reality was different. Same way, our bondage is due to the illusory experiences and desires and attachments to the people around us, right? So just like the king needed the knowledge of the reality to be freed of the attachment of his wife, he didn't need any other instrument. So same, we can also be liberated by the knowledge of the truth. Therefore, conditioning I have to remove. I have to keep removing what is making everything function, without which nothing can exist. So what is my true nature? And therefore, then I can remove my what we call the mistaken identity, the tadatmaya. In Sanskrit, we call it tadatmaya. This conditioning that we have to remove. So our identification, once it is removed with the objects and the people of the world, which was there due to ignorance, that is the cause of our bondage. So this jiva, this inner conscious entity, the what we call the reflected consciousness here, it is in bondage. The reflected consciousness in association with the mind and the body. And this is in bondage due to ignorance only. Right. So once this conditioning is removed, then the jiva is not different from the Paramatma, or his true nature or essence is same as Ishvara. So then what happens is he becomes the ruler of the world. What is he? When I see myself as Paramatma. A lot of people, they when you tell, when they first read Vedanta, they will say, yes, you have created this world. So as Swamiji used to say, don't ask that question again. Thank God you're sitting far from me. नहीं तो यहीं से चप्पल आती. So, because you have to understand properly, from what level the guru or the teacher is speaking. He is speaking that he wants you to own up to the Atma. Think of yourself as the infinite Atma. But we are so conditioned that every time we think of, when I say I think of this body. So when ignorance is removed, it shows that we alone are the cause of everything past, present, and future. And all these that I see, all these wars and strife and good things and everything that is happening around me, all these are imaginations within me. I have created these because of my sankalpa. Even disease, even bad times, everything I have brought on me because of my sankalpa. Because sometimes because of my fear, I bring some bad situation onto me, or sometimes because of my desire. So in this way, once the Jiva Bhava is removed, then moksha is attained. So now Dharmaraja is now entering more towards the questions that he had asked earlier. So we will go into the sixth one. Hanta ta idam prabhakshami guhyam brahma sanatanam yatha cha maranam prapya Atma bhavati Gautama. Once more. Hanta ta idam pravakshyami guhyam brahma sanatanam yatha cha maranam prapya Atma bhavati Gautama. So Hanta, wait, okay, now definitely the idam pravakshyami. So now I will tell you this about the nature of this guhyam, the secret Brahma, this infinite entity, which is Sanatanam, which is ever new, ever fresh, non-ending, right from the beginning. It has been right from times eternal. And then Yathacha Maranam Prapya Atma Bhavati Gautama. So, which you asked about, hey Gautam, hey son of Gautam, that what will happen to this Atma when when this body goes to its death. Yathacha maranam prapya. When this body is going to die, then what will happen? Will the Atma be there, or will the Atma not be there? So this is he is going to tell. So that he will tell in the next verse. But what is he saying here? That uh, when this prana has been understood as being moved by the consciousness, then I have to understand that what this consciousness is going to do in the case of the body or the mind that is inhabiting, what will be their nature, and how will it impact. So hanta ta idam pravakshami guhyam brahma sanatanam yatha cha maranam prapya atma bhavati gautam. So here he is talking, Yamadharma Raja is promising to talk more about Brahman. Brahma. So Hanta is a short break. So yes, okay, let's, now that we have seen all this before, earlier, now I will go to the serious topic once more. So if you remember, a lot of verses were there which were talking about the Atma Sarupa. And then in between this short break where he's talking about the prana, etc. So now here Yamadharmaraja says, I will talk more about Brahman. So even though I've talked about it in the previous section as well as in this section, since it is extremely subtle, बहुत ही सूक्ष्म है, extremely subtle, and I will talk about that. So Guhyam Sanatanam Brahma Pravakshyami. So that secret Brahman, I want to talk more about it because it is Guhyam, a secret. Secret means not easily understood, extremely subtle टू अंडरस्टैंड. हाँ, छुपा हुआ, बट यहाँ उस सेंस में कि उसको समझना मुश्किल है, डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड. So that means even after teaching, it remains secret. So we learn so many things, we don't remember easily. Next day we forget. Someday, one day, the child is taught the spell knowledge, KNOWLEDGE. So again, after repeating so many times, even you will write it down. Next day you will forget the K. So in this way, whenever we practice something, then only it becomes fixed. So therefore, this repetition is being taken up by Shruti because everything is so subtle. So this is going to talk about more about Brahman. This is the first promise. And then also I want to talk about the other topic, Maranam Prapya Yatha Atma Bhavati. I will talk about the future of an ignorant Jivatma after death. So you asked earlier, तुमने पूछा था कि आत्मा के साथ क्या होगा. You asked earlier what will happen to Atma after death. So what will happen to an ignorant Jivatma, and what happens to a wise person? Both will have to be covered. So what will happen to a wise person after death? Nothing happens.
तो वही है जिसको ज्ञान होता है.
Yeah. So he's wise, he has released, so nothing will happen. So he's free now. So the elements have merged back. So in the case of the wise person, the sthul shariram is also gone. स्थूल शरीरम will go back to the 5 elements. पांचों तत्व से आया, पांचों तत्व में चला गया. It will go back to the 5 elements. Right? And the Sukshma Sharir, it doesn't have any more desire. So therefore it will dissolve. Karan Shariram is also dissolved. Therefore, all three bodies dissolve into the corresponding total. This it's also seen in the Mundak Upanishad. Gata Kalaha Panchadash Pratishtha Devascha Sarve Prati Devatasu Karmani Vijnanamayascha Atma Pare Avyaye Sarve Eki Bhavanti. So all these 15 kalas, the 15 ways in which the universe is manifest. This is there in the Prashna Upanishad also, where we saw the 16 kalas. There is the 16 kalas where the one is the Atma, the rest is the 15 elements of creation. So once all these are gone, then almost when we reach this highest level of knowledge, Atma Pariyavyaye Sarve Eki Bhavanti. Sarva Eki Bhavanti. The oneness only remains. The oneness only remains for the wise person. So in the case of a wise person, all the three bodies merge into the corresponding total. Otherwise, which is known as Ishvara, right? Ishvara. So like an iceberg is dissolving into the ocean. So then what happens to the Atma of a Jnani? Poor Chaitanyam cannot do anything because it is already all pervading. Therefore, nothing happens to the consciousness also. So this is a lot of This is the lot of the Jnani, which is called Videha Mukti. We saw Videha Mukti. Sharir chhut gaya, Videha, and then he is totally free. Right. So first is the Jivan Mukta, Jivan eva Mukta. So while alive he is Mukta, but then it finally culminates in Videha Mukti. So, but here we hear about mainly this mantra wants to talk more about the Agyani first. So therefore he says Atma or Agyani Jivatma Yatha Bhavati. How does it fare? What happens to him? What comes for him? So Maranam Prapye. What happens after death? So we are seeing what happens after death. So Shastra need not talk about it as we know clearly, but we do not know. We know everything that is happening before death. We are looking at our life journey. But what is happening after death, that is not the possible knowledge for any living being. So it has to be known only through Shastra. So what is the purpose of, what is the scope of Shastra? To tell us about those things which are beyond our experience. Right. But why do we accept that? When we have to apply Shruti, Yuktis, Anubhuti, the threefold steps whereby whatever Shastra is saying, we have to check that it fits into logic. It is logical. And then Anubhuti. It also is my experience. So I have to use that before accepting. But we always know that we are always in Hinduism. We accept Shruti as Praman. We accept whatever Shruti has said, it is true, because no one has been able to prove anything otherwise. So Yamadharmaraja, being the head of the Department of Death, he is the main person, no, who will know what will have happen after death. He is the one who is going to be taking the souls along. So, therefore, he said, Hey Gautam, or Hey Nachiketas, I will talk about the Agyani Jivatma also. So, these are the two topics that he has promised. So, he is going to deal with them. So, one he'll deal in the next verse, and the rest will come in the coming verses. So, this is a very popular verse, very, very much debated. A lot of people, and there are different parts of it which are debated. But if you look at it according to the concepts that have been explained so far, then it is not that complicated. So योनिमन्ये प्रपद्यन्ते शरीरत्वाय देहिनः स्थाणुमन्येऽनुसंयन्ति यथा कर्म यथा श्रुतम्. Once again, योनिमन्ये प्रपद्यन्ते शरीरत्वाय देहिनः स्थाणुमन्येऽनुसंयन्ति यथा कर्म यथा श्रुतम्. So, yonim अन्ये प्रपद्यन्ते शरीरत्वाय देहिनः. So, sthanum अन्ये अनुसंयति yatha karma yatha shrutam. So, yatha karma yatha shrutam we bring to the beginning. According to our karmas, the way, whatever we do, whatever we have done in our earlier births and whatever we are doing in this birth, here we are talking about, the earlier births, and yatha shrutam, whatever is our notion. What shrutam means, what? Something that we have heard.
Yeah.
Gyan. You can say gyan also. But what is my notion about everything? What is my notion? So when I think of myself as Agyani, I think of myself as one with, as a karta, as a bhokta, one with desires, then that is the way I will accordingly take birth. And according to my desires, I will have birth. So yatha karma, yatha shrutam. Whatever actions I have done according to, and whatever shrutam, whatever is my knowledge, whatever my bhava, according to that, shariratvaya dehina. This ajivatma will take up a body. It will take up some body. No. What kind of body? Yoni manne prapadyante. One kind will have the body through the yoni, through the womb. They will be born through any human being or any animal. They will be born through the womb. Yoni manne prapadyante. They attain, they receive, or they reach out to. And what about the others? Sthanum anye anusanyati. Sthanum anye anusanyati. So same thing, yatha karma yatha shrutam, we apply there. So there are some who will go to the birth of sthanu. Sthanu is non-moving. So non-moving is plants. So a lot of people say about that it is saying something about the also about the non-living entities, about stone and mountain and everything. So actually, technically, we don't say that the there is a jiva within the stone and the other non-living entities, but we say consciousness is there. So because consciousness is there, so that consciousness is reflecting of them. But see, whenever you are seeing anything in the world, it might not be as polished as a mirror. The mirror will reflect the light, but that does not mean the other things are not reflecting the light. They are all reflecting light, but you cannot see your image because the clarity is not there, huh? So that light reflection is haphazard. We study in science that the stone is also reflecting light, but the surface is uneven. So that is why we cannot see the image. The light is scattered. So same way, all the even non-sentient objects, they are reflecting, but they don't have subtle body, the sukshma sharira. Or even if they have what you call a sukshma sharira, that is very, very basic level. So that is why they cannot move. उनमें कोई क्रिया नहीं संभव है, no possibility is there. So here we should take sthanu mainly as plants, or non-moving plants. So sthanu is the plants. So it is mentioned in the translation also if you look there. So so but what about the rest? The rest, they all have a consciousness. Otherwise, they will collapse. So something is holding them. So that we call as Devta. That is the Devta. So Devta is also a kind of Jiva, a special kind of Jiva, but who has power of over wider areas, right? So as we saw in the case of the Surya Devta for the eyes, he is seeing through all of the eyes. So similarly, we have Devtas for all the entities of the universe, which means that there is a Gram Devta, there is a Kul Devta, there is a Patthar Devta, there is a Pahad ka Devta, there is a Ped ka Devta. We all know this in Hinduism, no? We know. That is why we worship that consciousness. It is going through everywhere because there is a Devta everywhere. So anyway, coming back to the main thing about this verse. So what is the main thing that is conveyed here in this verse is that here Yamaraja is answering the second question because he wants to answer very briefly before he treats the main one. So the one question is for what will happen to the Jnani. So or one who knows about this Atma. But here he's treating about the Ajnani. So Ajnani Jivatma after death. So very important because this is what we call also Pramana for Punarjan. This mantra is telling us. So Shastra is the primary proof for rebirth. Whatever reasoning we give, no, they are all not clinching reasoning. They are not proving arguments. They are all what we call supporting arguments. So if we have got, proving arguments for rebirth, then all the scientists would have uniformly accepted. School में भी पढ़ा रहे होते. They would have they would be teaching you rebirth. So in academic studies, there would be a chapter on rebirth which would have been there. But the very fact that science has not scientifically accepted rebirth, we should know we don't have proving evidence for rebirth. What is the evidence we've got? We've got Shastra Pramana. So Shastra Pramana is established through logic also. So therefore, rebirth comes under what we call aparushe vishaya. It is aparushe. It is never available for scientific study. So science will accept only under one condition. If a scientist has to accept at the time of death, he should be able to prove that something leaves the body. So you would have heard stories, someone did an experiment and there was, the person was put in a glass cage and then there was a hole, or someone measured the body and then after that measured again and the weight had decreased. All nonsense. All this is just stories made up. They are not true. So we always go by science in Vedanta or in our adhyatmic system. Everything has to be logical. So what is the logic? The logic is there is to be a conscious force, an entity that is moving everything, and that conscious entity is supporting what is called the mind, and the mind has vasanas. So where will the vasana go? Where will the karmas go? It has to go somewhere. Cause and effect, they cannot be destroyed. Just like there is the law of conservation of matter, there is the law of conservation of action also according to us. Law of conservation of action. So you can say law of conservation of energy is there in science. So something similar. So therefore we believe that, not only believe, our Shastra also says, and we accept that even if it is what we call a sambhavana yukti, even if we say it is a possibility, but this possibility is guided by a solid logic. It is guided by the logic of Shastra and also the logic that every cause has an effect. Without the cause, without the cause, effect cannot be there. So if we are seeing the effects, it is due to some kind of previous action, some kind of. So if a child is born, then it is carrying some prarabdha. Because of it, it has some special faculties or knowledge. So now, what does Shastra says here? It says here, when an ignorant person dies, what happens to the four factors? Sthul Sharir, Sukshma Sharir, Karan Sharir, and Atma. So, in the case of the wise person, we saw the three Sharirams have dissolved, Atma remains. Right? It cannot travel because it is all pervading. So, sab jagah hi hai. So, what happens in the case of an ignorant person? The Sthul Shariram dies and it dissolves in the Pancha Mahabhu. Hmm. So, whether you cremate the body, burn it, or you bury the body, it will mingle with the Panchabhutani. This proof is Pratyaksh Pramana. So Sthul Shariram goes away as it cannot travel anywhere. Then what about the Atma of an Agyani? Whether Agyani or Gyani, Atma happens to be all pervading. Therefore, as we saw, Atma cannot travel. Then what happens to the Sukshma Sharir and Karan Sharir? These you can't see with eyes. आंख से तो देख नहीं सकते. And I don't see your Sukshma Shariram. Do you see my Sukshma Shariram? No. Both Sukshma Shariram and Karan Sharir, they are invisible. So, they are not available for any instrument of knowledge. Why? Because they themselves are the instrument. What was the rule? Swatmani Kriya Abhavat. A thing cannot be known by itself. A thing cannot know itself by itself. Just like the tip of this finger cannot touch the tip of this finger. So therefore, what happens to the Sukshma Sharir and Karan Sharir, we can only know through Shastra. So from Shastra, we came to know that the Sukshma and Karan Sharir of an Agyani survives the death. They are not destroyed at the time of the death. So only the case of the Gyani, the Sukshma and Karan Sharir also get destroyed. Because there they merge back into the elements. Nothing is left for them to move on to. So, but generally, we don't say two sharirams together separately. We say Sukshma Sharir. So, Karan Sharir is understood because both are merged together. So, therefore, Sukshma Sharir will travel. So, this Sukshma Sharir is always with the reflected consciousness, the RC, and therefore, what travels is Chidabhas Sahit Sukshma Shariram, what you were asking. Chidabhas Sahit Sukshma Shariram is traveling. Because Chidabhas is always there, that reflected consciousness is always there. So that is traveling with the Sukshma Sharira. That is, so Pratibimb Sahit Sukshma Sharira, you can say. Or otherwise you can call it the ego, the Ahankar, the I sense. So the Ahankar part of an Agyani travels, whereas the Ahankar part of a Jnani is resolved. Why? Because his Ahankar has now become the universe. His ego sense is associated with the highest ego, Brahman. So where does it travel? It travels towards another physical body, which can be either a superior body like a Deva, or it can be inferior like Asuraha, and or it can be animals or plant, or medium like Manushya Shariram. So Uttam Shariram Dev Shariram, Madhyam Shariram Manushya Shariram, Adham Shariram Pashu Pakshi. So what determines this type of Shariram? Does God determine it? No. If God is going to determine what will happen, what is the dosh we studied earlier? Pakshapat dosh. Bhagwan mein pakshapat aa jayega. So therefore, certainly God is not determining punarjanma. Therefore, never blame God for your body. Then if God does not determine, who determines? Yama Dharmaraja says, Yatha karma, yatha shrutam. Punya papa karma phalani. Our punya pap karmas are responsible, and also which we have not done only in the present janma, but done in the past, all our janmas. So depending on the karma, we are given this body. So we saw in the it's there in the Prashna Upanishad also. So punyena punyam lokam nayati, papena papam ubhabhyem manushya lokam. So punya will take to punya lokam, pap will take to pap lokam. Or in the Gita also it's there. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha, madhye tishtanti rajasa, praganya gunavritistha, adho gachanti tamasa. So urdhvam gachati sattvastha. Those who go have sattva guna, they will go to the higher loka. And madhye tishtanti rajasa. Those who are in the middle state, they will go to the rasic loka, the lokas of movement. And then Jaganya Guna Vritti Stha, the one who have very negative faculties, they will go to Adho Gacchati, they will go to the lower lokas. So all these are based on this mantra alone. All these, because what came first? The Shruti came first. So from Shruti, then Bhagwan Krishna chose the selected sentences and which he put in there to explain the concept together. So that is why Gita is a condensation of all of these. Gita is a condensation of all of these. So all these are based on this mantra alone only. Very, very important mantra. So what does it say? Anye dehina, some agyani jivatmas. We have to add the word agyani. Yonim prapadyante. They enter the womb of various parents of different living beings. So yoni refers to the womb, which determines the very body itself. Then why does it enter the womb of the mother? Shariratva, for acquiring an appropriate body. And why should it acquire an appropriate body? Because the karma phalam can only be exhausted through experience. Without the sharir, the karma phalam cannot be exhausted. That is why it is said that in Manushya Janma only moksha is possible. So, Sukha Dukha Anubhava Dwara Eva Karma Phala Kshiyate. By Sukha and Dukha, the karma phala is exhausted. And anubhav is possible, experience is possible only through the sthul shariram. So if sthul shariram medium is not there, we cannot experience anything. Therefore, the jiva, which leaves one physical body, it cannot experience anything until it acquires another appropriate physical body. So if it is in Swargalok, the sukh is to be experienced. It requires a body which is appropriate to Swargaloka. So it is mentioned in different Puranas, in Garud Purana also, that a different body is given. For those who are going to Narak Lok, they will be getting what we call a Yatna Sharir. Body for bearing all those pains. So even to experience Sukh Dukh in dream also, you require a dream physical body, right? And there has to be a body, in the dream also. So if you are eating good food in a dream, you have to have a dream physical body, which is created in the dream, through which alone you travel in the dream and you are doing the transaction. Only difference is physical body is not perceptible for others. So therefore, there are two types of physical bodies. One type of physical body is the perceptible physical body, and the other one is the imperceptible. So Swargaloka Sthul Shariram is not visible to us. Swapna Loka Sthul Shariram is also not visible to us in this body, and therefore either visible or invisible, Sthul Shariram has to be acquired, because only through physical body you can contact the world. And when the world is connected, Sukh Dukh will come. So what is the Yam Dharmaraja saying? That this jiva goes in search of the body, a shariratva, for acquiring an appropriate visible or invisible sthul shariram. So physical body is must. So, and then sthanu anye anusanyati. So others are taking the birth like a plant. So previous yonim includes, the first yonim includes the Pashu, Pakshi, Mrig, Manushyadi Shariram, whereas all the Jadamay Shariram, this is indicated in the second one. Stanu Anusayanti. So Stanu we saw mainly includes the plants, and the rest are the Devtas, we can say. So Anne Agyani Jivatmanam Sthanum Anusayanti, they acquire that physical body. So some people ask, how much time will it take? So in fact, we are bothered more about what happens after that death rather than what happens before. We say we do not know how much time it will take, because we do not know when the next karma is going to fructify. So then the most important thing is, once this physical body is dropped, then the time concept itself will change. Time is different for every entity. So you can never measure the time of another janma in terms of time of this physical body. So that is why during dream itself, the time is totally different. You dream for 1.5 minutes or so of waker's time, and during this time you will be getting children, grandchildren, and so on also. So from that it is very clear that time varies from loka to loka. So therefore we can never talk about or understand the time principle. So Sthanum Anne Anusayanti, these are what we call laws by which birth is happening. So birth is not by accident. This is said here. Yatha karma, yatha shuktam. So according to my karma and my memories, I will get. So therefore, whatever is in my thoughts, that also I think time is up, but I'll just try to cover this quickly. So, the what is the second part is about the memories that we have. They also control where we are going to be born. Huh? So, some people will say, no, that I don't remember the previous janma. So we say that you are blessed if you don't have memory of that long ago. We forget something only we heard a few days ago. So how can we remember Punarjanma? So this, in fact, this forgetfulness is very important blessing, especially in regard to our past suffering. That is why we say, no, that time is a healer. So otherwise, if they are going to be all these things are going to be green in our memory, we will continue to shed tears. Huh? So therefore, whatever we remember through our previous janmas, that will take us. That knowledge will take us to the loka we desire, to the birth that we desire. So that birth will be dependent on my desires of my previous birth. So whatever be my, what we call the, we can say the upasana, whatever be my upasana, जो मैं चाहता था, जब मैं पहुंचूं वहां पे मैं पहुंच जाऊंगा. And therefore, once we reach that body, then we will continue a new life cycle. But if you don't, then we will have, for that we'll have to go to the eighth mantra. So that will take in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat.